Yes, people. So, Lee Cronin's The Mummy, right? That is now in cinemas, and yeah, it's in the name, right? Lee Cronin. Is it Cronin? Cronin? I don't know. But Lee, he directs and he writes the piece. Okay, the film is produced by Jason Blum along with John Cavill and James Wan. It is co-produced by Jennifer Scudder Trent, Alana Glassful, Naeem Gale. It's executive produced by Pete Chippetta, Michael Clear, Macdara Kelleher, Andrew Larry, Judson Scott, Anthony Titanegro, and Lee Cronin. It is associate produced by Ella Gale. Who else? Oh, that's it. And then there's line production from Kino Reyes. Okay, so Stephen McEwen took care of the score. Cinematography was David Garbett. Brian Shaw edits the piece. Right, casting was taken care of by Sarah Dumia Lindo and Terry Taylor. Right, Nick Bassett is production design. Art direction, we have Robert Barrett, Shane McEnroe, Gary McGinty, and Andrew O'Donoghue. Right, Kevin Downey is set decoration. Costume design, we have Joanna Etwell. Right, Emily Baker, Ruia Butler, Liz Bryan, Zalika Delaney, Katie Derwin, Aisling Duffy, Andrea Isubi, Elaine Finnenan, Linda Gannon, Vincent Lamb, Faye Miller, Dominic Mombrum, Eva O'Toole, Joshua Sachs, Hannah Sullivan, Arian Tutin, Meg Tyrrell, Valerie Ward, Jess Whelan, and Jesus Garcia all took care of hair and makeup. All right, so we've got Liam Bailey, Jack Blair, David Bryan, Isaac Carines, Brendan Condren, Fionn Condren, Torin Condren, Jessica Grant, Norman Kelly, Martin Kenny, Branslav Martinuk, Chelsea Maffa, Yeri Marfilis, Stephen Mullen, Michelle O'Lanahan, and Sheila Quadredo. They were all behind our stunts. Right, so in the film, we have got Laia Costa as Larissa Cannon. She's married to Charlie, played by Jack Reynor. They've got their eldest daughter, Katie, played by Natalie Grace. Their son, Sebastian, played by Shylo Molina. And then there's Maud, their youngest daughter, played by Billie Roy. A younger version of Sebastian is played by Dean Allen Williams. I think that is it. I did think there should be a younger version of. Oh, yes. The younger version of Katie is played by Emily Mitchell. Okay, so we have them. There is then. Who else do we have? We've got Detective Delia Zaki, played by May Callumway. Right. Who else do we have? Larissa's mother, right? Carmen is played by Verónica Falcón. There is Layla Khalil, played by May El-Ghati. Right, a younger version of Layla is played by Aisha Leone. Right, Layla's mother, the magician, is played by Hayat Kamil. We've got Detective Ismail, played by Hussam Chadat. Right, Professor Bixler is played by Mark Mitchinson. Miss Mills, right, Maud's teacher, is played by Lily Sullivan. Right, Layla's dad, right, Gamal Khalil, is played by Omar El-Saeidi. Layla's middle brother is Jabari, is played by Arkin Kurabaita. Her youngest brother, Tariq, is played by Safi Mulki. Who else do we have? Dum 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 dum. Okay. Dr. El-Saeidi is played by Tim Sefi. Vogel is played by Gideon Emery. We've got Nadia Taylor, played by Hannah Kugel. Pinky, played by Jamie Doyle. Officer Adele Salah, played by Amar Ati. The priest, played by JC Montez Roldan. Who else? The 81st Mummy, played by Jonathan Gunning. Jolly Abraham is a newsreader. Johnny Everett is an Albuquerque newsreader. I think, people, that is essentially our major cast, right? So the gist of the film: the young daughter of a journalist disappears into the desert without a trace. 8 years later, the broken family is shocked when she is returned to them, as what should be a joyful reunion turns into a living nightmare. So yes, that is the film. So it's funny because, right, we have this film, right, and it got announced, but then, like, I think it was a few months later, they decided to, do another film in the Brendan Fraser, Rachel Weisz, I think it's Rachel Weisz, Mummy series, right? So a Mummy 4 is coming. So at that point, that's why they added Lee Cronin's The Mummy, right? Because otherwise we're going to have another Mummy, and you'd be like, wait, which one is this? I think as part of their marketing campaign for this film, every week they were like, Brendan Fraser is not in this film, right? They have to let people know which version of the Mummy this is, right? So essentially, it was meant to be a bit like Lee. Was it Lee? Can't remember if Lee did the Invisible Man, right? But it was meant to be akin to that, right? A lower budget affair, kind of coming back to the essence of what the character is. So yeah, like there's just been like, man, I just remember as a kid watching a load of black and white mummy films. You know what I mean? Dealing with all of that stuff. I hated the Brendan Fraser films. They were not my bag, right? But so I was intrigued. I was like, okay, let me give this a check, right? And it is, man, they definitely have got a kind of chilly vibe to things. Right? There's definitely some creepy moments, like a tongue underneath a door licking toes. It's weird, right? Like eating scorpions and just there's some weird creepy things. I mean, hats off to the special effects team, right? The special effects team, visual effects, those cats did a job. Oh man, they did just some of the things, like holes in the neck, right? Skin coming, just all of these things. They made it look real. They really made it look, well, real for whatever it is, right? Because obviously, I think, yeah, sometimes skin coming off in a certain way, you're just like, that's not good, right? That's not enjoyable. But would it come off like that? I don't know. But they made it look like legit for sure. Right, so just all of those effects, like the mummy, the creation of the mummy, like just all of these things, they did a good job, right? Did a very good job with all of this stuff. It's then the story. Okay, does the story work? And it kind of does, right? Like it definitely kind of works. There's some degree where you're like, okay. Now, there's also another issue with some of the things that are going on, right? There's certain things and you're just like, okay, aren't they looking after their kids? You know what I mean? Like, there's things that are going down and you're just like, wait, how do you miss that? Right? How now they are in another country, right? So they have gone to Egypt. They're working in Egypt, Cairo, for a few months because Charlie is a journalist, right? So being in a different country leads to different things, right? But there's definitely some instances where you're just like, as I think especially later on in a film, right, when stuff has gone down, right, when there's certain things have happened, surely at that point you are being so cautious with your kids, right? There is a bit when Sebastian wants to go on a school trip and they're like, nah. So they are being protective. So it then gets a little, you do wonder to yourself at a point, because you're like, okay, if they're being real protective, as we see at the start, with the school trip and all of that, would they really not pay attention in this scenario? I also kind of think, because it is set now, you feel that these people would have cameras all over the place, you know? So there are certain things where you'd be like, boom, I can kind of get that. There's other things where you just think, I kind of think these people would be hella cautious, right? They'd be worried about so many different things, you know what I mean? So there's certain thing where you're just like, right? There's other things where people seem, it's that thing where people stick around for way too long, and you're like, how come they're not running away, right? How come they're not even just shouting out for help? There is one moment when a character is, there is potential danger, and they don't really shout. There's a bit when I think they call for someone, but you just kind of think, when you're facing this, it's not just Steve, are you there? It's screaming at the top of your lungs, right? It's not holding anything back, right? You are just being like, Steve! Steve! Like, you are properly throwing everything you have into that call, right? So there's that. I think also going into situations on your own, that is a bit like, kind of feel if you're looking into this stuff, you're going with some, you're not just going on your own, right? You are convincing someone to come with you, blackmailing someone, but you're going with backup, right? Why would you do any of this on your J's? You know, like, there are things in the film which I was like, is this what we'd be doing, right? I don't know. Like, I did think the ending made a lot of sense. You know, I kind of think, of course you would do this, right? Like, it makes no sense to do it any other way, right? But I guess there's a thing with the whole bandage, that situation. I think, like, aren't you replicating that? That was, as I said, there's certain bits in the film which I was a bit like, wait, what are we? But the big thing with this, right, and the thing that is super irritating. So, the film has got a whole heap of subtitles, right? There is a whole heap of subtitles going on with this film. And the listing of it, and I don't know if it's because I use the Odeon app, maybe if you go on the website proper, but I kind of feel that if it's like, it should be the same on the app as it is on the, but there's no indication of subtitles. You know what I mean? Wait, I'm just going to take a look at the webpage now, because I'm just like, I kind of feel that there wasn't, and I'm looking at the page, and there's no indication. It says it's a fantasy, says it's a horror, right? But I see in nada when it comes to subtitles. Right? There's a thing going audio described, right? Is a thing saying wheelchair accessible. There is no indication the film has, and it's not a case of there's a few subs up in here. There is a significant amount of subtitles in this film. a significant amount, people, right? That's where it gets so frustrating, right? And the other thing, right? It says it's listed on the Odeon site: strong gore, violence, horror, but nowhere subtitled. And yeah, there is lot, a lot of subtitles. The subtitles are also trash, right? Like they're either white or yellow, no solid background, and there's a lot of desert scenes, right? There's a lot of light scenes. So regardless of the color, you are losing them in what's going on the screen. So I don't know how much I lost because of the subtitle. It feels there was a lot, right? Because even the opening sequence, you have two people like doing this thing, and they are, I'm assuming they're speaking Egyptian. You know, like, and so yeah, there's these whole moments, right, when they're talking to the police at the start, Egyptian, right? There's so much stuff, and it's like, I feel that I did lose some important things because of that, and so that does impact the enjoyment of the film, right? Because when you just feel that you're behind on everything, right? And you're trying to, there's certain scenes where you're kind of like, okay, it's clear what's going on. There's other scenes where it was harder to see exactly what's happening because it's dark and, it's a bit frantic and all of this. So that did hamper things, right? It did hamper a lot of things. So, it's not my view on the film, right? I thought it was okay, right? But yeah, there was definitely things going on where you are questioning, right? Why is this happening? But with some of those scenes, there were subs, right? So it's kind of like, I'm going, why is this happening? Maybe things were broken down within the subtitled conversation. I do not know. So yeah, my view on this, it was fine, right? It could have been more impactful, right? It could have really been like, oh shit, that was fire, right? But maybe when you factor in the subtitles, right, and those elements of the film, maybe that elevates it. Maybe that fills in some of the blanks, right? That addresses some of the issues. That could be the case. But yeah, I don't know. But maybe that is the case. Okay, so yeah, it's a difficult one to fully lay out for you. But I will say, as I said, the special effects are really good. It's elements of the story that are a little bit. Sometimes the acting does feel a little forced. Right, there is an argument that Larissa and Charlie have. Right, I feel it's midway through or towards the start of the third act. They have this argument. Charlie says a thing that's a bit like, oh, and that it all felt a little bit performative, right? A little bit forced. But yeah, look, I don't think there's a lot out, right, this week, especially other than Michael, right? So, if you're not into music biographies and all of that, maybe you dive into a little bit of horror. But yeah, I guess it kind of All depends. I think it's slightly better than The Wolfman. You know what I mean? So I guess if you love The Wolfman, then I think you'll probably enjoy this. Right? If you didn't like The Wolfman, you might not enjoy this. But then you have to factor into the subtitles as well. So yeah, just laying it out for you people so you can make your choice. For me, it was a bit mid, but there are circumstances and caveats involved. So, Lee Cronin's The Mummy, it is now showing in a cinema near you.